Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be my celiac disease diagnosis story. So obviously I have celiac disease. For those of you who don't know, celiac disease, I have my notes here. Celiac disease is an autoimmune disease. According to celiac.org, when people with celiac disease eat gluten, a protein found in wheat, barley, and rye, their body mounts an immune response that attacks the small intestine. These attacks lead to damage on the villi, which are small finger-like projections that line the small intestine, which promote nutrient absorption. When the villi get damaged, nutrients cannot be absorbed properly. Everybody's diagnosis story is different, and this is mine. The story begins way back in 2013 when I was a junior in high school. I started noticing that I was getting these intense stomach pains after I was eating. So I went to my pediatrician and she did a lot of blood work, and we found that I didn't have any major food allergies, and at this point I didn't have celiac disease. Okay. The test actually showed that my bilirubin levels were elevated. Side note, bilirubin is a reddish yellow water-insoluble pigment C33H36N4O6 that is formed by the breakdown of heme, is excreted into a water-soluble form by liver cells into bile. High levels of bilirubin are known to indicate gallbladder malfunction, so my pediatrician recommended that I go get a HIDA scan and an endoscopy. The endoscopy results came back completely normal. There was nothing wrong with my stomach, and the HIDA scan did not. It actually showed that my gallbladder was functioning at less than half its potential. I then got sent to get an ultrasound to check for gallstones, but I didn't have any gallstones. At this point, I was confused as to why at 15 years old my gallbladder would stop functioning, but the pain persisted. Just to be sure that an inaccurate test wasn't the problem, I had 2 more HIDA scans done, and that wasn't the problem. My gallbladder was definitely not functioning right. So I decided to have the gallbladder taken out. I did have the typical symptoms of post gallbladder removal surgery, and if you've had your gallbladder out, you know what I'm talking about. These symptoms took quite a while to wear off, and I actually still find myself having symptoms of this on occasion, but that pain was bearable, and in comparison to before, my pain was a lot better. Now let's fast forward the story to May of 2015. I was a senior in high school, and one morning I woke up with this, what appeared to be like a little bug bite on my right elbow. I didn't even notice it. When I got up in the morning, I walked to the kitchen to eat breakfast, and my mom immediately was like, "What's on your arm?" And I hadn't even noticed it. It wasn't itchy and it didn't hurt, so I really didn't think much of it, and I kind of went on about my bad self. Throughout the day, I noticed that it was getting more raised and it was starting to look a lot worse. That night, I noticed that my other elbow now had the same bump on it. 2 elbows, both looked like bug bites, but there's no way it could have been a bug bite. What are the odds I get bitten by the same bug and it leaves the same weird whelp on both of my elbows? It definitely wasn't a bug bite. Oh well, I went to bed. I didn't think anything of it until I woke up at 3 in the morning and my lips looked like Angelina Jolie's. They were so big. And also my eyes were nearly swollen shut. I went to the emergency room and they gave me a prescription strength allergy pill, thinking that it was also an allergic reaction to something. They just gave me that pill and sent me on my way, and they weren't too concerned because although my lips and my face were swollen so bad, and even my knees and ankles were pretty swollen, my throat wasn't swelling up. They weren't concerned that I was having some life-threatening reaction. The next day, the swelling had died down a bit, quite a lot actually. After the swelling had subsided, I noticed that the welts had spread to my toes and my ankles and my hands. After a trip to my pediatrician, she also thought I was just having an allergic reaction to something, and she told me to take an over-the-counter allergy medicine just until it went away. But side note, when my pediatrician was examining me that morning, she noticed that my feet were ice cold. She thought that was really abnormal, but I said, you know, my feet are always cold. I always have cold feet, and they always look kind of purple. She immediately diagnosed me with Raynaud's syndrome. Raynaud's syndrome is an autoimmune disease where, when your body is exposed to extreme temperatures, like the cold, it overcompensates for that and restricts blood flow to your extremities and phalanges in order to keep your most important organs warm or cool, respectively. So no big deal, I needed to start wearing socks more often. So fast forward to the next morning, I wake up in a complete trance. The welts are now covering all of my arms, all of my legs, up my neck, and my entire face. and I can't even begin to describe this pain to you. The hives hurt and they burned so bad. Unlike before, they were kind of just benign and they didn't feel like anything. I can honestly tell you that I felt like my body was shutting down. I was in the absolute worst pain of my life. I felt like I was dying, but I was like cool as a cucumber. It was so strange. It was really like I was in a trance. I was dizzy, I felt numb, I was puffy, and I just felt weird. My mom insisted that we go to the emergency room. I had to convince my mom not to call 911 because it was really bad, but I knew whether I go in an ambulance or whether I go to the hospital in a car, I'm gonna make it there, I'm gonna be okay. I don't need immediate medical attention, but something's incredibly wrong with me. So we finally get to the hospital after what felt like hours of sitting in rush hour traffic. So they take me in and they immediately run a bunch of blood tests, including an ANA panel, none of which were conclusive. Well, actually the rapid test for mono came back positive, but apparently that test will always come back positive if you've ever been exposed to it before. And we found out later that's what happened. I didn't have mono. I had just, I guess, been exposed to it before, so that's why it was positive. They decided to give me a shot of epinephrine, which is just an EpiPen. This shot took the hives away, not completely away, but they definitely subsided and I felt better. But this shot left my body completely puffed up like a balloon. I mean, I was so puffy, you couldn't even see my eyes. It was so insane, and it took 4 whole days for my body to deflate back to its normal size. So after that odd episode of hives, I've never had hives before in my life, ever. I started noticing these weird changes to my body. I often felt joint pain in my fingers and my ankles and my knees. I was extremely tired all the time. My vitamin D was low. I had no energy and I could no longer be in the sun without breaking out into a weird rash. Later I found out these rashes are caused by chemical sunscreen, and I'm totally okay and can be in the sun if I have on a physical sunscreen. But also my nails were brittle. My anxiety was at an all-time high. And I was feeling extremely ill after eating again like I had before I had the gallbladder out. Let's once again flash forward to my freshman year of college. Because I had turned 18, I could no longer see my pediatrician, so I had to get a new doctor. I made an appointment with him to discuss all of my symptoms, and immediately he knew something was very wrong. He suspected lupus was the culprit of my pain, and that absolutely terrified me, but I wanted answers. He decided to refer me to a rheumatologist who ran an ANA panel on me again, but that also proved that I didn't have lupus and I didn't have arthritis or the other major autoimmune disease that that panel tests for. The rheumatologist also knew that something was wrong with me, but he wasn't sure what. He decided to run a test on me, which he called the long shot panel of rare diseases that I probably didn't have. I was up for anything at this point because I just wanted answers, because I knew something was really wrong and I needed to know how to start fixing it. 2 weeks later, the results were back and ding, 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 we have a winner, celiac disease. Now it was time to see a gastroenterologist. I got an endoscopy and a colonoscopy. They showed no intestinal damage, which was great news. But I still had celiac disease and I needed to start eating gluten-free so I could avoid ever damaging my intestines to the point of no return. And I've been gluten-free ever since. It was a major adjustment and it was really frustrating at times, but I think I've come to peace with it. Celiac disease can be triggered or become active for the first time after surgery, pregnancy, childbirth, viral infection, or severe emotional stress. I believe the episode of extreme hives is what triggered my celiac disease, because right after that happened, I started noticing all the weird symptoms. But I suppose it could have been the gallbladder surgery or something else entirely, but I'll never be able to know what exactly triggered my celiac disease. But I am definitely sure that I did not have celiac disease before the gallbladder removal surgery, because I had been tested for it and it came back negative. If you or someone you know are experiencing symptoms similar to mine, I highly suggest you get tested for celiac disease prior to starting your gluten-free lifestyle. The tests are only conclusive if you have been eating gluten on a consistent basis for 6 weeks. So it's really important to not start eating gluten-free before you have the test done. I also encourage you to look up the other countless symptoms of celiac disease, and let it be noted that people can go symptomless and they're still causing damage to their intestines. This disease actually affects about 1% of the population, yet 83% of people who have it go undiagnosed or misdiagnosed. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. in some way. I'm honestly thankful I have this story to tell and that I finally have answers. I'm so grateful to have my health back. I urge you to pay attention to your body so you don't miss something major that could negatively impact your future. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you so much for watching this video.